Human beings spend their entire lives learning how to make an impression, to be seen, loved, and remembered. Yet the more they try, the further they drift from the one thing that truly makes the magnetic presence. In the world of energy, where every vibration is recorded in the quantum field, you are not remembered for what you show, but for the energy you emit in each moment of existence. The harder you try to prove yourself, the more distorted your frequency becomes, like an echo trapped in a sealed room, bouncing back on itself until it fades. But when you relax, when you no longer crave recognition, you begin to shine in a way no one can explain. Because in the quantum world, magnetism is not the result of effort, it is the natural consequence of alignment between your essence and the frequency of presence. Everyone has met someone unforgettable, not because of what they said or did, but because their energy made you feel expanded. In their presence, your mind quieted, your breath softened, and you felt seen without a single word being spoken. They did not try to impress, they simply existed fully without defense or decoration. And that state made them a natural field of gravity. On a deeper level, presence is the frequency of wholeness. When you stop chasing the need to be interesting, your mind ceases to emit the vibration of lack. The quantum field does not respond to words, it responds to frequency. A person vibrating with the need to be seen will only attract others who also seek validation. Those frequencies meet and amplify tension, not attraction. But someone who has released that need, who no longer cares how they are perceived, radiates a different kind of energy. They do not seek, so they expand. Without trying to draw attention, they become the natural center of it, like the calm eye of a storm that silently pulls everything toward it. In that stillness lies an ancient intelligence that the modern mind has forgotten. The intelligence of sufficiency, the vibration of one who needs to prove nothing. When you walk into a room with that energy, you no longer enter as someone trying to make an impression. You become the field itself, felt by everyone, even if they cannot explain why. You speak little, yet every glance, every movement carries a mysterious depth. People feel comfortable around you, not because you are perfect, but because you have nothing to hide. Energy does not lie. No matter how many words you use, your frequency always transmits the truth of who you are. In the quantum world, all communication happens below the threshold of thought. Emotion, heartbeat, electromagnetic field, all of it influences others within seconds. And they do not react to what you say, they react to the frequency you broadcast. When you worry about how you are perceived, your vibration contracts. When you fear judgment, your energy locks inside your body. When you pretend to be confident, your field emits interference like waves colliding out of phase. Others cannot name it, but they feel it as unease. That is why you can follow every social rule and still be forgettable. Not because you lack ability, but because you are transmitting the wrong frequency. The quantum field is never persuaded by language, it only responds to authenticity. When you finally release the need to be seen, your energy returns to its natural state. The flow of attention no longer loops inward, but opens outward to the entire space. In that space, others feel like they can breathe, like there is room for them to exist. Your presence becomes a silent invitation that draws people in. True magnetism does not come from performance, but from the energy that no longer needs to perform. It is the frequency of someone who has stopped seeking, someone so still that others can see themselves reflected in that stillness. In the world of frequency, you cannot fake it. Any attempt to control perception creates distortion in the field. But when you simply are, when you let your natural being show itself, your energy begins to organize itself into higher coherence. The silence within you becomes radiant. The calm within you gains gravity. And others recognize it even when you say nothing. They do not remember you because you were special. They remember you because they found themselves again in your presence. That is the frequency of presence, the vibration that renders all technique unnecessary. Because when you are truly here, you no longer need to impress. You become the experience that everyone is searching for. The people who stay in our minds the longest are never the ones who try to be remembered. They do not need to attract attention because their presence alone is enough to slow down time. When they speak, you do not just hear words. You feel the layer of energy beneath each sound, as if they are touching something deeper within themselves and letting it echo inside you. They do not use their gaze to capture but to illuminate. They do not use words to prove, but to reflect. And that is what gives them their quantum power, a kind of energy that cannot be explained by logic, only felt through intuition. In every interaction, what truly happens is not an exchange of words, but an exchange of frequencies. When you are near someone who has reached the state of true presence, you are no longer just conversing, you become part of the field. They radiate, they do not pull you in, they open so you can walk in on your own. And in that openness, you feel safe to relax, to stop performing, to simply exist. Somewhere deep within your soul exhales light free, as if it has just rediscovered a piece of itself long forgotten. That is the effect of real presence. It is not in their eyes or their voice, but in the state of having nothing to prove. When you meet someone like that, you are not just meeting them, you are meeting yourself within them. They become a quantum mirror, reflecting the part of your being you had forgotten. And that is why their energy lingers in your memory. Because in that moment, you were not only seen, you were awakened. In the classical world, we are taught that we are separate, that each person is an independent entity. But at the quantum level, all consciousness is connected through the same field of information. When you look into someone's eyes with full presence, you are not just seeing them, you are touching the extended part of yourself. Every interaction is a form of resonance. If you are present, you awaken presence in the other. If you are anxious, you amplify anxiety in them. When two frequencies meet, they do not simply add up, they merge and create a new reality. That is the energetic interference we call connection. What makes unforgettable people different is not that they are special, but that they know how to keep their energy open, unblocked, unguarded, not withdrawing out of fear or the need to control. Their energy is like still water, reflecting everything it meets without needing to define it. When you speak with them, you feel heard. Even if they say little, you feel understood. Even if they give no advice. Because in presence, they do not respond from the mind, they respond from the field. They do not care about right or wrong, smart or foolish, interesting or dull. They care only about what is alive in you at that moment. And when someone truly looks at you without judgment, something remarkable happens. Your awareness naturally expands. You begin to speak more deeply, more honestly, surprising even yourself with what emerges, not because they made you speak, but because their energy gave you permission to be yourself. This is the essence of quantum reflection, where one person's attention can activate a higher version of another. We often think that the one who impresses is the powerful one, but in the language of energy, the one who allows others to be themselves holds the true power, because they operate at the level of consciousness where there is no separation between I and you, only awareness, recognizing itself through two forms. When you understand this, you begin to see that in every relationship, what you seek is not attention or validation, but resonance. You do not need someone to love you more. You need a field clear enough for you to return to yourself. And that can only happen when you stop trying to make an impression. When you are present, your eyes become space, your voice becomes rhythm, and the other person feels safe enough to drop into their own depth. In that moment, every energetic barrier dissolves. Your field of attention and theirs merge into one, creating a resonance with the power to heal. Because in the purity of undivided attention, the wounded parts within each person begin to soften. There is no longer right or wrong, higher or lower, only consciousness meeting itself in another form. And when that meeting ends, they will not remember your exact words. They will remember the feeling of being fully alive in your presence. They will not remember your face, they will remember your frequency. What people call the soul is simply the energetic record of that frequency. Every true encounter is an interference between two souls. And in each interference, if you are present enough, you are creating an energetic imprint that lasts longer than memory. That is why those who are truly present never need to try to be loved. They do not say what sounds pleasant, they do not smile more than necessary, they simply exist as an open space where others can see themselves without fear of judgment. And that is what makes them immortal in the memory of those who have met them. In a world where everyone longs to be heard and understood, the one who does not talk about themselves becomes the echo of healing. Because they do not try, they flow. Because they do not resist, they connect. And in that simplicity, their energy becomes the mirror of the universe, reflecting the light from a place no one remembered still existed. There is a subtle trap that almost all of us fall into, an invisible prison that keeps human consciousness locked inside its own walls. And that trap is self-observation. Not the kind born of awareness, but the kind that watches itself through the eyes of others, the constant whisper in your mind asking, how do I look? What are they thinking? Did I say something wrong? That quiet voice, which seems harmless, is the strongest chain that binds your energy. It pulls your attention inward until you are no longer here, no longer present. In the quantum worlds where energy moves in the direction of attention, whatever you focus on expands. When you keep thinking about yourself, your energy contracts. Your frequency closes and your field becomes a looping vortex, consuming itself. Others feel it immediately, even if they cannot name it. They sense you are there, but not really there, as if your light is being pulled into an invisible black hole. In conversation, this becomes clear. You may appear to be listening, but inside is a stream of self questioning. How should I reply? Do I sound confident? Do they find me interesting? All those thoughts sever the energetic connection between your field and theirs. You think you are present, but your energy is bending back on itself like light curving around gravity. The other person does not feel seen because you are not truly looking at them. You are looking at your reflection in their eyes. And that makes you invisible, not because they ignore you, but because you have withdrawn your energy from the present moment. Living in that state, you are no longer interacting with the reality, you are only interacting with an imagined version of yourself. Every word and action is adjusted to avoid being wrong, being disliked, being judged. Yet the more perfect you try to appear, the more life you lose, because real aliveness only exists in the flow of spontaneity. You become the actor of your own script, forgetting that you live in a universe that responds only to frequency, not form. When you step out of the natural current, you also step out of the field of connection. You stop broadcasting outward and begin creating static inside. And in that state, no matter what you say or how hard you try to impress, your energy cannot reach anyone. The energetic field does not listen to words, it reads openness. The self-observing mind is always closed. It does not receive, it projects. It speaks to be validated, listens to be praised, gives to be acknowledged. That energy is exhausting. When you operate from the vibration of lack, you attract situations that remind you that you are not enough. Every glance, every reaction from others becomes a signal for deeper self-judgment. You fall into the cycle of self-watching, self-correction, self-shrinking. That is why many intelligent and graceful people still make others feel uneasy, not because they do anything wrong, but because their energy leaves no space for anyone else. Meanwhile, those who are truly magnetic do the opposite. They do not think about how they appear. They do not monitor their behavior. They let energy move through them freely. When they speak, they are not performing themselves. They are transmitting a living current. When they look, they are not seeking validation. They are witnessing reality as a miracle. That is why they always seem natural and others feel at rest around them. Nothing is more tiring than being near someone who is constantly managing their image. You feel tense without knowing why, because your nervous system is mirroring their inner contraction. But when you are near someone who is no longer bound by self-observation, your body relaxes. You feel permission to be yourself. This is why presence has the power to heal, because it allows both nervous systems to synchronize into balance. In that state, oxytocin flows, the body feels safe, and consciousness expands. You begin to remember what it feels like to be alive, not performing, but fully being. That is where connection is born. Self-observation is the energy of fear, while presence is the frequency of trust. When you trust that you are enough, you no longer need to control the image. When you trust that life is not against you, you stop acting out roles. And when you stop seeing yourself through the eyes of others, you finally begin to see them. Transformation begins there, because the energy of attention is the energy of creation. When you withdraw it from fear and return it to the present, the current of light starts to flow again. You become lighter fluid, natural. Your field opens like a flower meeting the Sunday. People sense it, they cannot explain it, but they want to be near you. They do not know why, but they feel peace. In the quantum world, peace is the natural frequency of attraction, because it emits the signal of needing nothing more. And nothing is more magnetic than the energy of someone who no longer seeks to be noticed, because they are already radiant enough to shine without needing a mirror. When the light of your attention is no longer pulled inward but directed outward, a quantum shift takes place within your entire field. It is the moment your frequency stops revolving around the self and begins to move in rhythm with reality. In quantum physics, energy always follows the direction of observation, and the direction of your attention determines how the world reveals itself to you. When you stop seeing yourself through the eyes of others, when you no longer measure every gesture and word, the current of energy inside you begins to change direction, transforming from a closed loop into an open flow. That is when you become a point of light in the field, not because you try to shine, but because the natural light within you is finally allowed to radiate. Others feel it instantly. Your attention, when it is pure, can calm another person's nervous system faster than any comforting words. In a world where everyone is trying to prove something, meeting someone who has nothing to prove is a rare experience. They feel safe because your energy carries no demand, no expectation. They do not need to become anyone else to be accepted by you. The light of your attention is like a lamp turned away from the wall toward the world, illuminating details that others overlook, awakening forgotten parts within them. The power of presence lies in this, in the ability to make another feel truly seen, not through the lens of expectation, but through pure curiosity. When you are truly present, you do not just hear words, you hear the energy behind them. You sense the subtle shift in their gaze, their breath, the rhythm of their voice. You notice the pauses where hesitation lives, the unsaid emotion, the silent plea for understanding. And if you can be fully there in that moment without trying to fix, without advising, only being, their energy begins to change. Their body softens, their tone lightens, their frequency starts to synchronize with yours. This is quantum resonance, the phenomenon that occurs when two energy fields oscillate in harmony, amplifying each other. When your attention is truly directed outward, you are not merely listening, you are healing. And the beauty of it is that in healing others, you are also healed, because attention is a closed loop of energy. The light that goes out returns magnified through another's experience. The more clearly you see others, the more deeply you see yourself. That is the nature of quantum correlation. No observation is ever one-sided. When you see, you are seeing. When you touch a field, that field touches you. Many think attention is a function of the mind, but in the realm of energy, attention is the purest expression of love. True love is not an emotion. It is the capacity to see something without needing to change it. When you direct your light outward with no motive, you are loving the world in its purest form. Others feel that love not through words, but through the energy of your presence. In that moment, you become space itself, non-threatening, non-judgmental, open to receive. And that openness allows others to unfold. Within that space, they are permitted to be themselves without defense. You may say nothing, yet your energy speaks. It says you are safe here, you are seen, you are acknowledged. And that alone begins to heal the fractures they carry. But the most important truth is that this cannot be faked. The quantum field is never deceived. Your energy speaks more honestly than anything you do. If your attention is divided, pretending to care, while your mind drifts, the other will feel the static in your field. Dishonest attention creates interference, and connection cannot form. But when your attention is pure, unbroken by intention or calculation, the energy around you begins to reorganize itself. Silence fills the space, not because things have stopped moving, but because everything begins to move in one rhythm. That is the state of quantum harmony, where two beings communicate not through language, but through frequency. In that harmony, you no longer need to try to be remembered, because others store your energy within their memories, a moment of healing. They will think of you not for what you said, but for how they felt, clearer, lighter, and more real in your presence. Because in the energy of presence, they touch the high part of themselves. They will want to return, not to find you, but to find that feeling again. This is the essence of true magnetism. It does not live in expression, speech, or skill, but in the frequency you emit when you no longer need anything from anyone. When you turn your light toward the world, you become part of the universal current. You no longer seek to be seen, because you have become the light itself. And within that light, you not only make others feel alive, you allow the universe to experience itself through you. When you begin to understand that presence is not a social skill, but a frequency state, everything about how you perceive the world starts to change. You realize that the energy of attention cannot be faked. It is the most honest thing you carry into every interaction. People can be convinced by words, but energy cannot be deceived. Your attention is the pure voice of your soul, and its frequency determines what message you are transmitting to the world. When your mind is still turned inward, your stream of attention is blocked, energy cannot flow. But when you redirect it outward like water being released, it begins to move, to expand, and to reflect back. Each moment you are truly present, your quantum field automatically recalibrates, rearranging every vibration within your body, aligning you with the frequency of nature. That is when everything begins to flow effortlessly, without control, without strain. You speak less, but every word carries weight. You move lightly, yet every action has impact, because your energy is no longer scattered. When the mind stops self-watching, attention becomes pure light, and that light is your true essence. In the quantum world, where every particle responds to the observer, it is the quality of your attention that determines how reality responds to you. If you direct it with fear, reality contracts. If you direct it with trust, reality opens. And when your attention carries the frequency of presence, reality mirrors back coherence, peace, and wholeness. You no longer need to try to be loved, because your energy naturally emits the signal of love. You no longer need to chase success, because your energy has become the magnetic field of abundance. In that flow, you understand that every interaction is a piece of music. And your role is not to control the melody, but to merge with it. When you talk to someone, instead of preparing your response, listen to them as if you were hearing music for the first time. Notice the rhythm, the pauses, the soft notes, the spaces in between. Let your energy dissolve into that sound without interruption. Because when you truly listen, you are not only hearing another person, you are hearing the universe speaking through them. Every person you meet is a wave of energy, a distinct frequency of consciousness. When you are present, you are interacting with countless frequencies, and each time your field expands. But when you are not, you close vibrating within the limits of your old patterns. That is why some conversations feel heavy while others fill you with energy. It is not the topic that matters, it is the frequency of presence. When you recognize this, you understand that the most important thing in any encounter is not to say the right words, but to hold the right frequency. Because presence shapes reality more subtly than language ever could. A person can say simple things, but if they speak from the field of presence, their words can change the heartbeat of the listener. A single gaze filled with awareness can bring someone to tears without them knowing why. A touch pure enough can dissolve pain from another's body without explanation. This is not magic, it is the natural mechanism of energy. Energy is never separate, it always seeks equilibrium. When you are vibrating at a higher frequency, you become an instrument of balance for the chaotic fields around you. But the paradox is that the moment you try to reach that state, you lose it. Presence does not come from effort, it comes from surrender. You cannot be present by trying, because effort itself is the sign of absence. You can only be present by stopping, by listening, by feeling life moving through you. When you release the need to control, you become like water. Water does not think about how to flow, it simply flows. And in that softness lies true strength. The rigid breaks easily, the fluid endures. In every situation, if you can hold the frequency of water, the world cannot wound you because you do not resist. Your energy adjusts naturally to what is, and that is why people find you easy to be around, yet unforgettable. They cannot grasp you, for you take no fixed form, but they feel your presence in every breath. When you reach this state, you begin to understand that true magnetism is not about what you do, but about what you no longer need to do. No resistance, no proving, no control. You become as light as air and as still as water. Within you, there is no longer the tension of wanting to be acknowledged, only the calm of one who has realized they already are. From that place, your energy becomes transparent, unattached, unforced, simply existing. Others feel it as freedom, because in your presence they too are freed from the need to be someone. That is the gift of presence. Not instruction, not guidance, but liberation through frequency. When you are truly present, you do not transmit knowledge, you transmit vibration. And in the world of energy, vibration is the only language every soul understands. When you completely release the need to be remembered, you step into a rare kind of freedom, a state where the idea of making an impression loses all meaning, because you have become what others are seeking, not an image but the energy of truth itself. True magnetism does not exist in what you create, but in the space you allow to exist. When you are fully present, you no longer try to be seen, you simply are, and that pure being changes everything around you. The quantum field responds most powerfully to energy that no longer resists, because such energy carries no noise, no distortion from fear or control. When your energy becomes still, you enter a state of unity with the entire field. In that moment, you no longer emit the frequency of a separate self, but become the intersection of the whole, where the universe sees itself through you. Others feel this instantly, though they cannot explain it. They feel lighter, clearer, and perhaps for the first time in years, they feel life moving within them again. Because true presence does not only radiate, it activates. It touches the silent layers within others, the layers long forgotten beneath the noise of the ego. And when they leave, they do not just remember you, they remember what it felt like to be alive, to be seen, to come home to themselves. This is the highest level of quantum attraction, where you are no longer the one projecting energy but the field itself. All attempts to impress dissolve, leaving only expansion, a frequency so pure that others realign themselves through your presence without persuasion. In the energetic world, this is the closest thing to a miracle, yet it is not mystical. It is the natural mechanism of harmony. When two frequencies meet, the higher always lifts the lower, not by force but by resonance. That is why those who are truly present never need to convince anyone. They do not speak about kindness, they awaken kindness in others. They do not speak about peace, they radiate it effortlessly. They do not talk about love, they become its living embodiment. And here you realize that presence is not just a state, it is creative energy, the source of all manifestation in the physical world. Each time you are truly present, you emit a coherent wave, and the universe rearranges itself to reflect that wave. That is why peaceful people attract good fortune, the grateful attract opportunity, and the authentic are loved. Not because they are favored, but because they vibrate in alignment with what they wish to experience. When you merge with the frequency of presence, you no longer need to try to be remembered, because you have become the experience that others cannot forget. In their memory, you do not appear as an image, but as a feeling, a subtle vibration that made them feel alive. That is how energy remembers, not through form, but through frequency. And when they think of you, they are not thinking about you, they are thinking about the part of themselves that you awakened. So the truly present never seek to leave a mark, because their energies already become an imprint upon the fabric of the world. They exist as an open doorway, and anyone who steps through shifts in frequency. Not because they try to change others, but because truth has the power to recalibrate everything it touches. You cannot stand near a flame without feeling its warmth, just as you cannot be near someone truly present without being awakened. They are living reminders that light has always existed within each of us. We simply forgot how to let it shine. And once you understand this, you stop wanting to impress, you simply wish to be real. Because you realize that truth is the only energy that cannot be replicated. People can imitate behavior, voice, or style, but they cannot reproduce the frequency of truth. When you live within the energy of presence, you step out the field of illusion. You no longer fluctuate according to others' reactions. You are no longer dependent on being liked or disliked. You become the center of the field, and from that center you generate waves. Every interaction with you becomes an awakening journey, not because you teach, but because something deeper begins to move within them. This is the highest level of connection, where your energy does not touch the mind, but the essence. And when that happens, you no longer fear being forgotten, because in the quantum world, nothing truly disappears. Every moment of true presence, every glance, every breath, every smile, leaves an energetic imprint in the field, and those imprints continue